Good evening, class. This lecture is designed or geared toward a college-level jazz styles and analysis course. And today we're going to be talking about the guitar and the varying roles that it plays in modern music, whether it be jazz music, pop music, funk, and a little bit of its history and why it plays the role it does in music today. So let's get started. So, we're going to start off with a little basic history of the guitar. You time hands.
I got time on my video.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to start with a little early history of the guitar. There are several different kind of pre-guitars that are historically relevant, but today we're just going to focus on two. One being the vihuela, which is a Portuguese and Spanish, Italian 5 to 6 string instrument that was prominent in the 15th and 16th centuries. And the vihuela is very relevant to the modern guitar because it was tuned in the same fashion as the modern guitar, that being in fourths and thirds. The one difference is that vihuela was in sets of it had 12 strings on it, and the strings were in pairs of 2. From the vihuela, moving on a long time, we come to the banjo, which is a direct predecessor toward the rhythm guitar. That was very prominent in the 1920s and 30s. And the banjo became popularized because it was easy to transport, it was light, it was loud, and was used as almost as much of a percussive instrument as it was melodic. So a banjo would be found in New Orleans bands, and as an accompaniment instrument to horns or other types of bands. But in the 1920s, with the advent of, a big one was the Gibson L5, which was an archtop jazz guitar, which is the common shape of jazz guitars we have today with the F-holes, much like a violin. The banjo was kind of put to the side because the 6 strings of the guitar, for one, gave a more desirable tone. It paired well with a bass and accompanied like a jazz band with a different kind of timbre than a banjo did. And also the 6 strings gave way to being able to have more rich voicings, harmonic complexity. But in the 1920s and the 1940s, the only role the guitar played was an acoustic role. So that being purely rhythmic. The guitar didn't really cut through the crowd or the horns. It was really just the backbone. No guitar soloists were very prominent until the 1940s with the advent of the electric guitar by Gibson. And in the 1940s, the pickup was invented, and a pickup is placed underneath the strings of the guitar and picks up the magnetic vibrations of the guitar and transmits it through an amp, and that made it a lot easier for guitars to be heard as a solo instrument rather than just a quarter note comping instrument. So moving on, we're going to talk about possible roles. We're going to get to in a little bit players that really identified with these various roles, like rhythmic, or like we just started talking about, soloing or taking the guitar from an acoustic backbone to an instrument on the front line. So possible roles of the guitar. We have rhythm, which encompasses comping, which it either means accompanying or complementing. Nobody really knows. Maybe somebody knows. I don't know. It's kind of a mix of both, because comping with a soloist, say we'll just use one soloist as an example. You have to support them, and there are many ways of doing it. We'll get into that later. Laying it down a half, which means playing a very simple idea over and over, whether it be a quarter note or just a repeated rhythm, which ties into our next point, which is the guitar as a percussive instrument rather than melodic. We talked about the acoustic guitars, really playing 1 or 2 notes at a time, very simple ideas, and it was more of a percussion instrument than melodic for a good point of the guitar's life. So we have rhythm, over here, and then we have lead or solo guitar, which is, you know, the guitar is in the front line, the guitar is the focus, which can mean solo. So we talk about solo guitar being, you know, in a quartet or a group setting where the guitarist is playing single note solos, or completely solo guitar, which is found a lot in like classical music, guitar, or, you know, some jazz music. There's some solo guitar or strictly solo guitar players. And again, that's more of a melodic role than a percussive role, as the rhythm role is. Okay. Moving on, we'll talk about different genres of music and how they pertain to these different roles. So, we'll start off with pop/rock. A lot of pop rock bands will have two guitarists. They'll have a rhythm guitarist and a lead guitarist. And these two guitarists respectively fill their roles. A rhythm guitar will often play a repeated pattern, or just kind of lay on the bottom of the sound for the lead guitar to kind of fill the rest of the sound with a solo or a feature or whatever it may be. But the two voices are very distinct. In funk music, it's kind of the same, but less on the lead side. The role of the guitar in funk music is different in that it's very aggressive. There's a lot of picking, very fast, and it's a very aggressive, hard style that is it's similar to pop, but still different. In jazz, you know, it's pretty versatile. The role of the guitar really can change depending on the soloist, the music, the setting, but it encompasses rhythm guitar, or solo. Very varietous. I don't know if that's a word. In Latin music, the guitar is the forefront in the comping, between the comping instruments. If there's a piano and a guitar in a band, the guitar takes the lead, which is different because 9 times out of 10 in jazz, the guitar is subservient to the piano. But Latin music, guitar is number one. Very nice. Okay, classical music. Classical guitar can be solo, not very much rhythm. Classical guitar, the role of the guitar is almost always a solo instrument or an accompanying instrument, not necessarily rhythm. Kind of some gray area, but definite roles. Okay, so some examples of our rhythm guitar players. We're going to start off with this a great duo that my favorite example of them is found in the group Stuff, led by Steve Gadd. And the duo is Cornell Dupree on rhythm guitar and Eric Gale on lead guitar. And Cornell Dupree and Eric Gale had a very solid system. Cornell Dupree played a solid body guitar, which is kind of a thinner tone and is less full than what Eric Gale played, which is a hollow body guitar. So a lot of times Cornell Dupree would be playing rhythm, while Eric Gale would have freedom over top of it, because Cornell Dupree was such a solid rhythm player that his tone and his guitar could be heard over the whole band, you know, depending on what else is going on. Freddie Green, classic quarter note, 1 or 2 notes at a time, played with Count Basie, very well known. Everybody knows Freddie Green in the jazz guitar world. If you're interested in playing rhythm guitar, Freddie Green is, you know, can't argue with him. Ray Crawford, a little bit lesser known. Ray Crawford is most well known for playing with the Ahmad Jamal trio, his first trio. And Ray Crawford had a kind of different view on the rhythm guitar, where since there was no drummer in the band, Ray Crawford would use both hands to kind of play the guitar like a percussion instrument. He would play things that Miles Davis would later rip off in, like Autumn Leaves, where using his right hand he would play the fingerboard like a drum. Reggie Wooten, great funk guitar player. It's a lot of different techniques, very aggressive, very hard style of playing funk guitar, and he's a very strong backbone to it when he plays with his brother Victor Wooten often, or in his various other groups, master rhythm guitar player. And then Chuck Berry is just a great example of a rhythm rock guitar player who knows his role, is very solid. His time is great, and he's a very strong supporter as well as he can solo. But. Okay, so we're gonna take a little, watch a little example of Cornell Dupree and Eric Gale, like I mentioned earlier, and this is them in the band's Stuff. And we'll see Cornell Dupree supporting Eric Gale. Okay, so I'd like to ask you a question of what did you notice about the difference between Cornell Dupree and Eric Gale's guitar playing in respect to the instruments they were playing? Yes, Louis.
I noticed one of them was bending notes. I don't know which one it was, but he was going wee-doo-doo-doo, wee-doo-doo-doo.
Yes, that was Eric Gale, and that's demonstrating a lead guitar line. Just a very easy lead guitar line. He was just kind of playing on top of the beat, while Cornell Dupree, who was playing the solid body guitar, had a thinner timbre and laid the foundation that allowed Eric Gale to play all that funky stuff. Okay, so that was Eric Gale and Cornell Dupree. Bad duo, bad dudes, bad guitar guys.
Professor.
Yes.
Could you go into maybe a little more in-depth description between the two? Because I'm not a guitar player, so I'm not familiar with a lot of.
Okay, well, this class is for guitar players, so.
Oh, I walked into the wrong classroom. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just kidding, buddy. Okay. Yeah. So the difference is when you watch their guitars, that to me is a very strong indicator of what kind of guitarist a guitarist is what kind of guitar they play. So this example, Eric Gale is playing a hollow body guitar, and he's playing high up on the neck board, and he's piercing above all the other sounds, where Cornell Dupree is playing a lot of chords, kind of laying in the cut, playing on the bottom of the neck.
What's that, laying in the cut? What is
laying
that?
in the cut?
Laying
Beautiful.
in the cut.
Laying in the cut just means like filling your role.
Okay.
When you're laying in the cut, you are doing exactly what you need to do.
Okay.
So in this case, Cornell Dupree, very much he goes, man.
Oh, sorry.
Cornell Dupree is just fulfilling his role. He's supporting the soloist and while keeping the groove going. Laying in the cut. Yeah, we gotta move on.
Laying in the cut, everybody. Laying in the cut.
So up next is a little example of Freddie Green, which is a contrasting style, but still a supporting role to the ensemble.
You got 10% battery.
We got 10% battery. Hopefully we'll make it. So here's Freddie Green with his classic quarter note rhythm.
Full screen that.
If you notice, he's only playing one or two notes at once. This is not Freddie Green, by the way. This is just a kind of tribute to Freddie Green. There he is. Hate to cut it so short, but we got some other stuff we got to get through. So, as you can see, Freddie Green, very solid quarter note, using the guitar like a percussion instrument. He laid the foundation of the quarter note for the band. And a lot of times Freddie Green would say what he was doing is giving the hi-hat its pitch. So he'd be following the horns in their voice leading, and he would just be with them all the time, and he's just trying to complement the hi-hat and give the band a solid beat to rely on. And he never took, I think he took one solo the entire time. He was kind of basing it only like 4 measures long. So he was completely just laying in the cut, just like Cornell Dupree.
Oh, the cut, yes.
The
right.
cut, yes, the cut. And the godfather of the quarter note in jazz guitar. Okay, moving on. Putting rhythm over here, putting it down, and picking up a lead voice. Guitar is a lead voice. Guitar is very versatile, as you can see, as we've been talking about. Very versatile in terms of where it can be appropriate as a lead voice. So for example, take 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. We'll take rock music and we'll take classical music. Yes, not opposite ends, but it's kind of a hard distinction. So, in rock music, the guitar can have a solo where it can be featured above the ensemble. It can be supported by the drums and anything else, but it is the focus of the group. It's a guitar solo. If you wrote out a description of the song, you could have intro, verse, chorus, verse, guitar solo. That's what's happening. In classical music, the whole piece might be for solo guitar. Completely different interpretations of the word, but still meaning the same thing as the guitar is at the forefront. Which is the same thing in a jazz group. There's little difference to me in terms of, okay, in a rock song we have intro, verse, chorus, guitar solo, etc. In a jazz tune, we'll play an intro, play the melody. If it's a guitar trio, guitar solo, maybe bass solo, and then rap. Louis just rolled his eyes. Okay. Moving on. I want to talk about some examples of soloists. Firstly being Oscar Moore, who came to prominence with the Nat King Cole Trio. And he was one of the first innovators to take the guitar from the rhythm roll and to bring it to the forefront. And Oscar Moore, he really did both, because Nat King Cole Trio had no drummer for most of the time. So he could play quarter notes sometimes, but then he would also support Nat King Cole. They would trade. He would take a solo. Anything. Very versatile guitarist. Django Reinhardt, same vein. He could play quarter notes, in the gypsy style, and then he had some of the fastest hands in guitar ever. He's a great single night soloist. Someone's been on my mind lately as we just got off a bus with him about half an hour ago. Peter Bernstein, fantastic guitar player. We've all realized more and more this last week that this man is the baddest dude, and he is very well known for his single line soloing more than his rhythm. Although he's a great comper, single line soloing is his bread and butter. As is Pat Martino, another great guitar player.
19 minutes.
Jazz guitar player. And then we'll have Carlos Santana, who is a famous rock guitar player. We'll just watch one of these examples because we're kind of running out of time, which is kind of surprising. But so here's Pat Martino playing Olea. And if you'll notice, his solo is at the forefront. He's fulfilling his role as the lead guitar player. Killing it, absolutely. No way around that. Okay, we'll skip Santana, and we're out of time. Okay, 2 more points I want to touch on. The guitar is a primary comping instrument. being most often found in Latin music. The piano is subservient to the guitar. Or in pop, a lot of pop music, sometimes there won't be piano present in the group, so the guitar, the rhythm, is really important for the band. Or in jazz, a lot of times if it's the primary instrument, it's because the artist, we're going to use Sonny Rollins as an example, in his later part of his career, started using guitar because he liked the thinner sound of it. Guitar player Jonathan Kreisberg, because he preferred it to. He always said he felt that the piano was kind of overpowering him, and the guitar gave him more room for freedom, to melodic freedom. And then the guitar as a secondary comping instrument, which is more common in the jazz realm. There are 4 points that are very important for a pianist and a guitar player to work cohesively together, to both comp at the same time, because they're both in the same range, some delicate subject, but they must be both listening, collaborating, complementing, and aware. Listening to each other, collaborating on each other's ideas, complementing each other where one leads off and another picks up, and then aware of what the soloist is doing and how that affects how they interact with each other.
22 minutes.
Any questions?
No.
You answer everything, especially the part with the cut.
You got the cut? You cool?
Yeah.
I know a lot
Cool.
of things. That was great.
All right. Thank you, class.
Yay.